Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just starts. Technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 weyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative Dig Talk etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugende mu maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop and smart TVs as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative Dig Talk.
That's okay.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. with our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the alternative digital etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugende mu maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop and smart TVs as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative TikTok.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Digital. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Digital. Digital, the way to go.
The Alternative TikTok. Real issues, real talk.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative TikTok. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the alternative digital etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugende mu maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop and smart TVs as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative TikTok.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Digital. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Digital. Digitalk, the way to go.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Okay, definitely. We are on the mighty drive. My name is Norman Tumuhimbise, and we are with Professor, retired Justice of Supreme Court, George Wilson Kanyeihamba. We are moving towards a second episode of his latest publication, having followed the previous 700-paged book that was launched on 26th March this year under a title, Evolution of Constitutional Law, Public Law and Government. Here we come with his latest, with the title, Challenging a Presidential Election, Article 104 of the Uganda Constitution and the Presidential Elections Act 2005. Previously we had episode 1 and we had stopped at page 9. And today we shall ask Prof, because he offered reading this himself, and we are beginning with page 10 today. Page 10. Yes. So that we can go through.
But before I start reading, I want to say a few words.
First, say hello to our viewers, Prof, of the Alternative Dig Talk. Page 10. Yeah, we started with the paragraph. The Uganda media gave a picture. In the meantime, in our second hour, you will consider calling.
We stopped where?
Page 10. We are beginning from here.
Beginning from?
Let me give you this.
In the meantime?
No, the Uganda media.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Just put it there, or it will be seen.
In the meantime, in our second hour, you have to call 0789017145 to ask Prof any questions in regards to this latest publication. Prof, say hello to our viewers, and then we shall proceed, sir.
Good morning. Hello, all the viewers of this interesting episode. And I wanted to say, Norman, I don't know what you did last week, but I decided to venture abroad. And I got a taste of what non-reading, non-interest in current affairs or news means to the people and the city of Kampala. I decided to visit a number of establishments, media houses, and my former doctors, whom I hadn't seen for some time, but who I sent copies of your invitation for the launch of my book. I will not mention their names because I think they would be embarrassed. So I went to one practice in Kampala where the head doctor studied with me in the UK, and we had been friends for a long time. And we met, I stayed in the car, and one of my aides delivered the book to them. He said, Professor Kanyeihamba with his compliments. So the student said, don't be stupid. That judge died a long time ago. He died last year. So are you pretending to say that he has sent us a book from the grave? Then the book reached the doctor. The doctor couldn't believe that I was still alive, so he rang my old number so it would not ring. So he got my voice. He said, is that really you? I said, no, I'm not a ghost. I am real. He was shocked, more than anything else, that I was still alive. Then I visited another medical practice who had been very helpful in arranging for me to be flown to abroad for further treatment. And there, when I had had an appointment before, I got that condition. But the appointment was cancelled. But it was cancelled not because I was going away or had gone away, but because of Corona. And they said they would call me again to continue with the treatment. So when they heard I was around, I had paid them in advance. And they never called me. They never returned the money. So after so many months, about 6 months, I went there and I appeared at their, at their practice. The receptionist nearly fell down because of shock. But she didn't say, we thought you were dead. And she said, we are sorry we never called you. Then she said, shall I tell the doctor who used to treat you to see you? I said, no. I went to other doctors. And that's why I'm still alive. And then for them, they didn't say it, but I could see that they were shocked to see me, because they too had learned that I had passed on. And the receptionist came and said, the doctor will contact you. Obviously, you have to refund your money which you had paid. Then from there, I went to NBSC. And I had known 2 journalists there, very senior. They are on the anchor of NBS. You had contacted them, and one of them had promised quite candidly that they would come to the launch. You sent them a book. I don't know whether they have paid. So when I went there, the 2 journalists, I think, were busy. I sent each of them a copy of this book, challenging a presidential election. And I said, please give them my regards. I went to New Monitor, did the same. Then I called somebody in Bukedie. Yeah, those who broadcast from the Central. And I talked to one journalist. He said, is so and so there? Yes. Is so around? Yes. Tell them I want to see them. They didn't appear. I also left them this little book. And then I gave it to other influential people. I will not mention them, each of them. I distributed about 10 copies of this booklet. I thought that at least one of them would acknowledge, say thank you, we have received your book, including the journalist. One of those journalists, I don't mind naming him, was Derek Chionga.
You finally ambushed him.
You
finally ambushed him.
Yes, no, I didn't. He evaded me. But he is one of those 4 of the people who contributed to the publication, Kanyeihamba the Incredible. He's one of the 4 delicate young. He used to write about me, he used to visit me here many times. But for some reason, he doesn't want to see me anymore. If I call on his phone and he hears it is my voice, he switches off, he makes his phone busy. So I thought I would ambush him. Fortunately, I caught nothing, but I left him a book. And he too has not answered them. The other one was Justinian Emudot, who used to be my editor when my article Land View was being published every Sunday for 10 years. They stopped it, even though they renewed my contract, and I wanted to find out what happened. He also evaded me yesterday. I left him a book with a compliment from me, his name. None of them is supposed to pay for them. They are complimentary copies. But none up to now has contacted me. That is a sample of what Uganda is all about today. Thank you.
That's a good intro, and of course giving an insight of Ugandans and our culture, especially when it comes to communication skills. That how could you receive Professor's book and not even get
you don't even acknowledge
receipt or
that
even
I have received
a
it.
courteous call to say
Oh,
thanks, Professor.
sorry, I forgot. The other one, I ended up at the Lord Mayor's chambers,
Finally.
which is in Kamocha.
Yeah.
Yes. He used to be my lawyer. I have never dismissed him, so I assume he's still my lawyer. And when he heard that I had written a book, he said he'll come and see me. He was among those who were interested in the case of Kyagulanyi, and he said he would see me before the petition could be proceeded with. Then yesterday I said I must go to the chambers. I went there.
Ambushed him.
Ambushed him. I went to the chambers. They said he's not in.
Yeah, he was preparing for his swearing in because they were sworn in yesterday.
They were in court again?
No, they were sworn in yesterday. The Lord Mayor was sworn in yesterday.
Oh, okay, yeah. I didn't know. What about Segona, another lawyer whose contribution I admire, but also he seems to evade me because he was representing Kyagulanyi, and I don't know what his own advice, since Kyagulanyi withdrew his case, his petition, he has again disappeared from my company. And knowing that Segona is his lawyer, I had wanted to know what has happened to him. But again, I also left both of them a copy of challenging presidential election. And I thought, one of them by now surely must have got a copy. But none has acknowledged that thank you for leaving us a copy of your book. Complimentary. They are not paying for it.
But they can't even make a courtesy call to thank you for having.
So we shall leave it at that. The only thing I want to say, when we last met, I commented on the rivalry between Right Honorable Kadaga and Right Honorable
Jack Boland.
Yes, and my impression was that as we are governed by the ruling party NRM, sure they would not make a mistake and vote for Kadaga, although she used to be my declared lawyer when I was a judge, and she was practicing. And I said that she had made a mistake in challenging the ruling party, which had a majority in the parliament. And it seems that they partly listened to me because I think the decision they made was the right one. And they kept their word that they would honor Olanya, who, by the way, said very good words at the launch of my book that you organized to launch constitutional law, public law, and the government. And I think you'll make a great speaker. Thank you.
Okay, those are words of Professor Kanyeihamba, and we need to we need to proceed with page 10 of challenging the presidential election.
The
Uganda media.
The Uganda media gave a picture of how elections, campaigns 2020 to 21 candidates, leaders and supporters of opposition parties were roughly handled and sometimes criminally assaulted by the officers of the security forces, which included the police. Of the latter, President Museveni has said they are the most corrupt institution in Uganda. Yet the NRM party could not have been won the elections without the
Unacceptable
actions of the security forces in the country, which were largely managed and commandeered by partisan cadres, officers of the movement party. In short, President Museveni and the NRM party changed dramatically from a broad-based and all-inclusive governing movement to a feared and torturing ruling clique which gave lip service to the notions of democracy, rule of law, constitutionalism, and human rights. However, in practice, and it was doing the reverse of what each principle enumerated above stands for. Consequently, the 1995 Constitution has today become a nightmare in the NRM brand of governance. When President Museveni started his government, he was a favorite and desired leader of the broad-based and inclusive governance. Ugandans loved Museveni and his leadership. At the time, he scathingly opposed, criticized, and despised political parties as sectarian. Later, as the NRM changed character, and in a subsequent referendum, he campaigned for the restoration of multipartyism and activities of political parties, claiming they were good for the people of Uganda and its development. In a retrospect, he was not being truthful. He was put under pressure by foreign donor countries which sustained and continue to assist him and his government. Abuse of office and the violation of the Constitution and national laws have become and have continued to be regarded as normal by the president, his party, and supporters. He castigated other political parties as useless and the enemies of the people of Uganda. Now we come to what the Constitution talks about. The sovereignty of the people. The Constitution says, all power belongs to the people who shall exercise their sovereignty in accordance with the Constitution. It also provides that without limiting the effect of Clause 1 of the article, all authority in the state emanates from the people of Uganda, and the people shall be governed through their will and consent. Sadly, all power and authority of government and its organs derive from this Constitution, which in turn derives its authority from the people of Uganda, who consent to be governed in accordance with its provisions. These are lofty statements of belief which we all believe in today, but which seems to frighten away the NRM and its leadership. The people
shall express their will. Let's close for.
So then, I think
How about this? It's here.
I have gone back. Where are we?
Here.
Hmm?
Close for.
Yes, the people shall express their will and the consent in who will govern them and how they should be governed through regular, free, and fair elections of their representatives or through referenda.
Prof, on behalf of our viewers, could you please spare a few minutes and define free, regular, and fair elections?
We have had regular elections. There's no question about
So there
that.
Museveni passes the test.
Hmm?
In regards to the regular, Museveni passes the test. That indeed
He
they have
passes the test. Regular, Uganda passes the test. Free and fair, never.
What is
Following the Constitution provisions, no. Avoiding things like intimidating voters, intimidating candidates, and their agents, there Uganda has fared the worst. I think an example of how the NRM governed this country came on the whole day that we were electing, or the parliament was electing the Speaker of Parliament. Museveni told us that he spent all night calling candidates, calling their supporters. That even by 3 o'clock he was still on the phone. He was calling. And then he stated quite bluntly that he was neutral. That as between Kadaga and Olanya, he was absolutely neutral. That was a lie. And every Ugandan knows that was a lie. If I were neutral, these were the only two leading candidates in the NRM. The others had no chance at all. Semuju, there were one or two others. They were stars miles away from even threatening the nearest candidate, runners-up in the NRM. Then why should the leader of the party, President Museveni, who is also head of the state, spend a sleepless night on the phone? For what purpose? But we knew Kadaga and Olanya didn't see eye to eye as to which of them should be speaker. They were rivals. But the newspapers betrayed Museveni the following day, because all of them headlined how Museveni planned the defeat of Kadaga and the victory of Olanya. I wanted to make a footnote on this. When I was looking for a very important person from government to launch my book, I consulted the government. Previously, my book, The Blessings and the Joy of Who You Are, had been launched with Kadaga presiding. I was very, very interested and a bit suspicious that the government high authority official should say, we can suggest that I would have been happy in my own right to invite Olanya, because I have known him and he's a good man. And as I have said, he'll make a good speaker in my opinion. But he was suggested. Then when he suggested a very high up man of the NRM, he also suggested, no, this one, I think you are the one who suggested that we should invite Ofono Opondo. Then we also suggested all the leaders of the other political parties came. We invited them because Kanyeihamba is neutral among them all. But I think if I had invited him in my own right, Olanya would have come. But I think when he heard that the NRM would also be happy for him to come and launch Kanyeihamba's book, that encouraged him to come. I had also invited through her office Kadaga. She didn't respond. That is not the first time that my former theoretical lawyer failed to respond.
The clients.
One of the failings of my good friend Kadaga is I appealed to her on 2 occasions. One, I sought her sanctuary when I was being hounded and chased by the police, that I seek sanctuary from Parliament. I went to the Parliament building. I gave SOS message to Kadaga through the clerk of Parliament, who was a lady then, I don't know whether she still is. She said I would give them the message immediately. Kadaga did not respond.
So it's becoming a habit of Ugandans not to respond to people's messages, in your view?
Pardon?
Is it becoming a habit now amongst Ugandan leaders not to respond to messages or otherwise?
No, the other leaders, people like Semugeride, people like Mao,
will respond.
people like
Chagulanyi.
the leader of UPC, they always respond to me.
And Chagulanyi in particular?
Chagulanyi also, until he withdrew his petition, he used to respond. He even used to come here. Wakana Rugunda, the Prime Minister, in his capacity as my friend, he visited me, especially when I was not well. He organized for my money to take me to India through government. They were happy with me. The only person, for reasons known to himself, even I appealed through Honorable Janet Museveni to see him personally, is President Museveni. Ever since I became a judge of Supreme Court, Museveni has refused to see me alone. Even I hope if he's hearing this, today I'll challenge him. Please call me and we'll have a cup of tea. Because I know he will not damage me or put me into jail. But he has refused. And I think I told you why.
Let's not go into the depth of why Museveni doesn't want to meet you, Prof.
Okay.
And define this word as a legal brain, but also as a student of English. How would you define fairness? When you say fair, because you see there is good, there is fair, good, and excellent. Which interpretation did the law mean? Fair, just fair.
Let me tell you what fair means. I am in a wheelchair. When I went to vote, I cast my election in the general election. Our polling station is not very far from here. So I went when people had already lined up on this occasion. And they were all peaceful, chatting to one another. Obviously, they were lining there to vote for different candidates. But they were friendly Ugandans. They were on one mission to elect their leader. There was no fighting. There was not a policeman in sight. Then they saw me, this old man, in a wheelchair. Everybody helped. Everybody where I was passing, oh, Prof, how are you? They all helped me. And I felt wanted. I felt everybody was eager to cast their vote. They were not worried about anything else. And if they all went into the booth, they would elect without fear or favor to anybody, except according to the delegates of their mind. That is a fair election. That is what the people mean by fair and free election. We voted freely here.
What do you mean?
Unfortunately for the movement.
Free from threats, free, what do you mean? What does the law, what did you, the framers of this law, mean? Free from what?
Free from fear. If I had gone there and I found a policeman with guns guarding, they may say they are guarding the election, but from what? Then knowing that many of them are partisan, they want Museveni to win. They are hounding down Chagulanyi. Then, first of all, I would also suspect that they have spies in the system to see whether I am voting for Chagulanyi or voting Museveni. So I would feel very insecure, very frightened. And my surviving instinct will tell me, you better give the impression that you are voting for Museveni. Then you will feel free. That is not a free.
Fair and fair.
A fair and election. So I was here in Buziga and in Chirudu village. It was free and fair. And there were NLM candidates. There was DP candidate. But we chose freely. to elect Nupe candidate.
Okay, he has described and defined for us what the framers, of course, him as one of the best draftsmen that Uganda has had, what they meant when they put down free, regular, and fair elections. Prof, before we go on to the supremacy of the constitution, is it also fair, justifiable, constitutional, and legal for Mr. Museveni to be in Kololo as Parliament decides?
No. I don't know who objected to his presence, and it was right. We deliberately said the president should not be present when the speaker is being elected, because members of parliament must also feel free and comfortable in electing the speaker of parliament. And we said only the chief justice. The chief justice does not threaten anybody. He's an innocent soul without an army. So that's why we deliberately put in the constitution the president should not be present. So you ask everybody, what was he doing there? It's true he kept quiet. But every MP saw him. He's soon to announce his cabinet. He was saying, I am here. Vote the way I want.
Indirectly, without even saying a word.
Yeah. And he had told all his party in the caucus, we want Kadaga. Rather, we want Olanya.
So, yeah.
Kadaga has a challenge them publicly, I'm going to go independent. So Museveni said, no, this woman is popular with many. She could win. Let me go there.
So you mean, Prof, that Mr. Museveni's presence was more or less a polite threat? That, hey, Mr. Museveni's presence at Kololo airstrip, was it a polite threat that, hey, look, I am here, you dare vote the other side? If much as he didn't say a word, but me...
I wouldn't say it was polite, because I wasn't, so I don't know his countenance. But I know whether he was looking at MP, he said, I am looking. I know you. If it was like that, then it was not polite looking.
Let me ask also...
It was threatening. So, if I am here, my household, there are certain things they will not do, because I am here. But if they know I am absent, they feel free. The English have a saying that when the cats are away, the mice play. So, in my opinion, there is no doubt in my mind that Museveni's presence at Kololo was an indirect threat to all others, that you select the official candidate, you vote for the official candidate of NRM. Otherwise, you know I have the power to refuse you to be a minister, to refuse development projects in your area, and I am the boss. He didn't say anything, but sometimes silence speaks more loudly than actions.
The final question in regards to the same, what does the law say in regards to voting the Speaker of Parliament and immediately the President hands over the instruments of power? So if we hadn't been there, how would it be done? Is it done? Could it be done the following day?
That is an innovation by the NRM government and its system, because it says the Chief Justice will preside over the election. This is our constitution of the speaker. And immediately the candidate is declared winner. The Chief Justice.
So the powers are for the Chief Justice.
Yes. The Chief Justice will swear the speaker in.
Not
It doesn't say in the presence of the president. No.
Not the
Swear
president.
him immediately. Then immediately he is sworn in. He presides over parliament. Together with the other MPs, nobody else.
Get the deputy speaker.
To have the deputy.
Is that something challengeable in the constitutional court, like with the president presiding over? Do we assume he took the powers of the Chief Justice?
I think I want you to recall the incident. Some of the MPs were very agitated that President Museveni was there looking. What are you doing? I know my candidate is Kadaga. These people, what are they talking about? And then one said, I feel uncomfortable. When the president heard this, he said, I'll help you. These are my men, I'm going to send them away. What were they doing there? To increase fear.
Tension.
Just as when I read in my book, fear was put among the judges every year. So maybe we should go back to my
we shall
article.
proceed with Article 2, the supremacy of the Constitution.
The supremacy of the Constitution. This Constitution is the supreme law of Uganda and shall have binding force on all authorities and the persons throughout Uganda. Clause 2. If any other law, including that proposed by the President or by Parliament, or any custom is inconsistent with any of the provisions of the Constitution shall prevail, and that other law or custom shall be
Void. Inconsistent.
Void.
And void.
And the void to the extent that it is inconsistent with the Constitution. That's right. Then clause 3, very important. Defense of the Constitution. It is prohibited for any person or group of persons to take or retain control of the government of Uganda except in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. 2. Any person who singly or
in
concert with others by any violent or other unlawful means suspends, overthrows, abrogates, or more importantly, relevant to our terms, amends the Constitution or
any part of it,
or any part of it, or attempts, not just attempts to do any such act, commits the offense of treason and shall be punished according to law. This is very, very important because I talk in this little book about the 7th Parliament and how they had all refused to amend the Constitution. How senior members of the party and the cabinet ministers including the one who was almost deputy to President Museveni politically, the late Elia Kategaya. Amanya Mshega, still alive. Bidandi Sadi, still alive. Matembe. Very high official. Who?
Ekure Park.
What?
Ekure
Park. They all were opposed, just as we were. All of us, including people who were very strong movementists, including people who had also changed.
The likes of Ruzindana and others.
Ruzindana. People like
Jack Sabit.
Tinyefuza. People like Jas Mulenga, who was then a minister in the government, representing DP. The Kanyeihambas of this world. The Sekokos of this world, whom I will talk about later. We were all opposed to the amendment of the Constitution. So, President Museveni, who had casually proposed the removal of term limits, with others engineered bribing members of parliament to remove term limits, which the current Chief Justice was also opposed to, because he used to be a politician. Justice Alfonso Doro Owinye has recently stated that the Ugandans made a mistake in removing term limits from the Constitution. I cited Tumukunde, then Minister of Security, who also said that it had been a mistake to remove term limits. So, they feared to put it in the Constitution. Now, that heinous amendment, which is unconstitutional against the interests of Ugandans, was put in the Presidential Elections Act of 2005. It is known as Section 59, Clause 6, subparagraph B. B. I want every Ugandan child and a woman to get their constitution copy if they have it. We have it ready for them. That provision is not there in the Constitution. It is only in the
Elections Act.
Yes, in the act called Presidential Elections Act of 2005, which Parliament, having been bribed with 5 million each member, was duped when it was suggested by the movement leadership that they want to operationalize the Constitution.
Here we go, and here we are. We are breaking for just a minute or two and coming back with Article 3, Defense of the Constitution, but we are almost done. We are already there. We shall be, we shall be moving forward to discussing Clause 3 of Article 3, Defense of the Constitution. Don't go away. You're still with us, the Mighty Drive, with Professor Justice George Wilson Kanyeihamba. Don't go away. Coming back shortly.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just starts. Technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
Oyo President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative Dig Talk etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugende mu maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop and smart TVs as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative Dig Talk.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Thanks all our viewers, wherever you are, and whoever is watching the Mighty Drive. This is the Mighty Drive special, and we are on our second episode with Professor Kanyeihamba to discuss on how to challenge a presidential election. The other time before we closed our previous show, he had given a hint on why he considers that 2006 petition as a precedent, not the 2001 petition as a precedent. Prof, please share with us, why do you consider 2006? And then we shall proceed to the defense of the Constitution.
Yes. It's very, very important to distinguish between the two decisions. They were both decisions of the Supreme Court, but I regard one as a precedent and a binding precedent to that. That is the 2006. Not because I was on the panel, but because of what I'm going to say. when the 2001 petition was filed, there were 6 of us on the Supreme Court. I was the juniorest of the 6, with the Chief Justice Oduchi
Benjamin.
as the most senior and presiding. For reasons best known to himself, he decided, and maybe it was obvious, that we could not form a quorum. Because remember, 2006 was after the promulgation of the 1995 Constitution. And the Constitution says for a court to be in a quorum to hear a constitutional matter, it must consist at least 7, and we were 7 at rather 6 only. So we are not 7. So as you asked last time, quite rightly, somebody could have challenged the decision of the court that we did not form, they did not form a quorum. Now, to be fair to the Chief Justice, that's Ben Oduchi, he had pleaded with the president many times that we are only 6. We can't hear constitutional matter because we don't form a quorum. And the president had somehow delayed in doing the necessary. I remember Justice Oduchi going abroad on some duty, and the Deputy Chief Justice, who was no longer judge of the Supreme Court, the late Letitia Chikonyogo Mukasa, was acting. He repeated the request to President Museveni, please, the Supreme Court has only 6 members. Please put there another one. Museveni president again delayed. When Oduchi came, I don't think he was very happy. He wanted to show President Museveni that he was out of order. So he called the case with the lawyers to be there. And I also attended. This was a referendum case, I think. And we were only 6. So Oduchi told the whole world, and the lawyers said, we can't proceed because we are only 6.
Instead of 7.
And the powers that be have not given me a 7th judge. So I had adjourned the case. That was a brave act on the part of Oduchi. He demonstrated vividly that he was at variance with President Museveni. So that is when Museveni, after some referendum, or some matter, Museveni decided to appoint a 7th, who turned out to be the former Minister of Justice and Attorney General, Bart Katureebe. He became the 7th and juniorest member after me and joined me. Now, why do I say, we come to the question.
Yes.
Why is the decision
2006
binding
precedent than the one of
the binding precedent, which should be binding the court, the Supreme Court itself, and everybody, and should be bound by all subsequent judges who were participating in similar petitions? First of all, the Constitution provides there that it is the supreme rule of the land. Well, number one. Number two, it provides somewhere that the decisions of the Supreme Court are binding to all other courts and all authorities in Uganda. I want to remember that. Okay. Then, but they are also binding on the Supreme Court, unless in a subsequent case similar, it discovers it had made a mistake earlier and corrects itself. Okay? That's when that binding precedent can be valid. If you look at my findings and the reasons, as early as 2006, I warned that court and the subsequent courts that I hope one day they will revisit this decision in order to impugn the provisions of Section 95, Clause 6, Paragraph A of the Presidential Election Act, because, in my opinion, it was to remain and to forever be unconstitutional and in conflict with the provisions of the Constitution. First of all. So I warned, you find it in my provision. I was ignored. Have been ignored since by subsequent courts. They are only attracted not by the findings of majority judges in all the petitions, but the final orders. They have found the final orders, not the findings or reasons, to be the binding part, which is based on an illegality. I have always wondered why God has made me wrong. You say you have to live until you describe, rather you convince your countrymen that they need to revisit this constitution and correct it.
Okay, we are with Professor Justice
So,
Kanyeihamba.
why do I say that 2000
Was a
precedents are determined by a number of things? One of them is the quality and eminence of the judge who made the decision. Who were the judges that constituted the quorum, the panel who made that decision. Both the 2001 judges and of the 2006 were eminently qualified. But as I have told you, the reason I don't go along with the 2001 as a president is because there was no quorum in accordance with the Constitution. But otherwise, those same judges who had the 2001 election were also
part of the 2006.
Part of the panel in 2006. So let's look at them. Odochi, the Chief Justice. He had been eminently qualified. Previously, he has also written a number of books. But previously, he was not only a judge of the old Court of Appeal, but he was also a judge, became the Chief Justice of the new court under the 1995 Constitution. He had been the chairman of the Constitutional Commission that went around the whole world and Uganda, gathering views as to how we should be governed. And they came up with a draft document that was the working document of the Constituent Assembly when we made the Constitution, the Odochi report. So he was eminently qualified as somebody who knew what inquiries were all about. That's why he chose the word, and we adopted the inquiries and the findings. Instead of hearing and the
subsequent
judgment.
ruling.
I want you to remember that. That was Odochi. He had traveled far and wide. The second man on that court was Justice Odell. The second day, most senior. He had been a judge and I think senior lawyer in exile in Zambia. I studied with him for our A levels in Norwich in London. The only few Africans who did our levels in England. I identified him as a good judge when I was Minister of Justice and Rule. We flew him from Zambia to become a judge of the High Court of Uganda. By the time I came back in government, he was now a senior judge of the Court of Appeal. He was the chairman of the greatest report we have ever had on human rights. He chaired the Commission on Human Violations of Human Rights in Uganda. It's a class worldwide. Justice Odell. His report is a monument of workmanship, and we refer to it every time. That was the second judge in 2006. The third judge was none other than Karokola. Karokola was what I saw the grounding foundation of human feeling of what is just and fair. He had great feelings for the common man. He had the common touch. He came from a country where the history, one group had dominated another, the Bairu and the Bahima of Ankole. He was a Miru. But he had also medical background. When I went to Makerere as a lecturer, he was one of my students, but he was a mature student. Because, as you remember, he retired earlier than me in the Supreme Court because he was older than me. So he was
passionate about justice and
passionate about justice. That was number 3. Number 4 on that panel was none other than my late friend and the best man when we were students in UK, Justice Joseph Nyamihana Mulenga. Mulenga was the greatest rule maker and a fine draftsman. If you wanted the finest draft in Uganda on land law, you should either employ Justice Mulenga or you should employ Justice Wambuzi, or you should employ Justice Sebutinde or Kanyeihamba. We are the only trained draftsmen, as far as I know, in the legal profession. And if you look at our judgments, or even my writings now, I make mistakes these days. They are the finest and the simplest to understand. As Dr. Matembe once said, you can misunderstand. No, you can disagree with Kanyeihamba. He can be cantankerous. But you can never misunderstand what he's saying, because he's always very clear and unambiguous. Mulenga was the other judge on that panel. Then I was the next on that panel, Kanyeihamba. I was the only PhD judge in the whole of the Uganda judiciary at the time. There are now many judges, other judges who are doctors. I am the only one who had international reputation. Having represented Uganda internationally at a very tender age, when I was a small lecturer at Makerere, and I led the Uganda delegation to the 20th anniversary of the Declaration of Human Rights of 1948, which was held in Tehran, Iran, and automatically Uganda was in a rotation. The chairman of the AAU, as the African Union was called these days, and I automatically led the Uganda delegation, rather the African delegation, at that conference. And then there was a problem because we were talking about human rights, and Pakistan refused India, which was the next in rotation to lead the Asian group, objected, and they said, whom shall we call to be the leader? Iran was supposed to become the next one, but Iran was our host in that conference. So they said, why don't we ask the leader of the African group, Kanyeihamba, to lead both groups, the Asian and the African group. Only to discover, who is this Kanyeihamba? People started asking, who is he? Is he the president of the Africa? Is he Minister of Justice? No, he is a young lecturer at Makerere. I think they were all embarrassed and saying, so they coined a title for me at the Tehran conference. They called me His Excellency Honorable George Wilson Kanyeihamba, the Ugandan ambassador extraordinary and the leader of the African and Asian group. In that capacity, I was one of the 5 who were nominated to draft the Tehran Declaration of Human Rights. The others were the former Chief Justice of India, Professor McDonald of America, and the deputy of Martin Luther King, human rights activist from America, and the father of human rights of India, or rather of France. We were the 5 draftsmen of the Human Rights Declaration of Tehran, which is the 5th document in the series of documents on the United Nations human rights documents, that he, rather Dr. Chief Justice Odochi, myself, Odeo, and Justice Mulenga had also participated as lead counsel in the gathering and the compilation of the report on violations of human rights in Uganda. These were the judges in the 2006. Then the last one, but not least, was none other than Bata Katulebe. Bata Katulebe had been a brilliant scholar at Makerere, had been minister of the East African community, had held other portfolios, and before that he had also been Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Uganda following the replacement of the late Abu Mayanja, who had replaced me. So you had three judges on that panel who had been also ministers of justice and attorney general. Justice Mulenga, Kanyeihamba. Remember, I also followed or succeeded Mulenga as Minister of Justice and Attorney General. So you had people who were experienced in the politics, in the law, international affairs, and how to conduct inquiries and the findings. And with Odochi, who had defined for us what is the difference between hearing a case and inquiring into a petition, giving judgments after hearing,
and giving findings.
And giving findings. So the first question that we asked, all those other judges who didn't call their whatever they did in petitions findings, where did they get it? Where did those words disappear? And they use judgments. Where did they get the word judgment from?
Then inquiry.
So that itself, to use, to hear a petition, and then you come up with, I heard the petition and I gave judgment, is unconstitutional. Where did you get the words judgment? My colleagues, on the 2006, when I challenged them, they tried to convince me that there is no difference between the judgment and the findings. And I was challenged. So I went at length in my findings to define and differentiate between hearing and inquiring and the judgment and the findings.
Okay, Prof. We proceed with Article 3.
So, finally, therefore, we have never had another, even when they increased to 9, we have never had a panel with such qualifications and the wealth of experience with diverse international and investigative minds to sit together and come with a collective decision. What makes our decision even more imperative as a binding precedent in 2006 is that the Chief Justice, Justice Odochi, very carefully summarized what each of us had said. Each of us, it is enumerated there. Justice Odeo, this is what he found. Justice Sekoko, this is what he found. Justice Mulenga, this is what he found. Justice Karokora, Kanyeihamba, each of us, our opinions are there. You cannot mistake the decision. Then when it came to making the final decision, the decision is not a precedent. It's what you found and reasoned. Those are the precedent. So having reasoned unanimously, as you will find, our decision was at variance with our collective findings. So you ask yourself, why, having done this, why did you then suddenly say the election was differently? That is what we shall read in this little book.
Okay,
Thank you.
We are getting through and on to Professor Kanyeihamba. You can call our studio line. This phone is not for fun. It is a functional phone. So you call on it by dialing 0789 017 145 if you have any questions in particular. Prof,
So
shall we proceed with the
With
clause,
the writing.
yeah, clause 3? Yeah, under Article 3, defense of the Constitution. We're on clause 3. The Constitution shall not lose its force and effect even where.
Thank you very much. So reading on in this, from this little book,
Clause 3.
the Constitution.
Shall
No,
not
sorry,
lose-
where are we?
The Constitution shall not lose. Yeah. Clause 3 shall not
The
lose
Constitution
its force.
shall not lose its force and effect even where its observance is interrupted by a government established
In the force of arms and in
by the
case
force of arms or in any case as soon
as the people recover.
as the people recover their liberty, its observance
Shall be
shall be
reestablished.
re-established, and all persons who have taken part in any
Rebellion.
rebellion or other activity which resulted in the interruption of the observance
Shall be tried in accordance with the Constitution.
shall be, I can't see that,
Shall be tried
shall be tried
in accordance with
in
the Constitution.
accordance with this Constitution and other laws consistent with it. Then all citizens of Uganda, clause 4, shall have the right and the duty
At all times.
at all times to defend this constitution, and in particular,
To resist any
to
person.
resist any person or group of persons seeking to overthrow
Established
the established
constitutional order.
constitutional order, and lastly, to do all other
In their power
in their power
to restore
to
this constitution.
resist it.
To restore.
Sorry, to restore the constitution
After it has been suspended.
after it has been suspended, overthrown, derogated, or whatever, or
Amended contrary
or
to
amended contrary to the provisions of the constitution.
a pause, Prof, and I want to ask on behalf of.
Can we finish reading this?
Okay, I wanted to have this
Then
question answered.
where a person referred to in clause 5
5.
of this constitution was punished for any act done under that clause,
The punishment.
the punishment shall, on the restoration of the constitution, be considered void from the time it was imposed, and that person shall be taken to be absolved from all
liabilities.
arising out of the punishment. Thank you.
Yes, specific questions here on clause on paragraph A.
Go on.
Yeah, about to defend this constitution in particular, to resist any person or group. What do they mean? So when people come onto streets to protest against what they may term as an illegal amendment, isn't that their right? That what the constitution
What it is saying here, if people like you and me find that the constitution, rather the government, is trying to amend the constitution unconstitutionally, and then we go to the street and oppose and shout that the government, you can't do that, like those members in parliament who fought, the Chagulanyis, who fought so that the constitution should not be amended illegally. Then what the constitution is saying, that those people committed no offense at all, and even if they were punished, like some of them were punished, when the constitution is restored, they will be absorbed and cleared as and become innocent citizens who are heroes who were fighting for the constitution. That's
so
what it means.
So they act under the law, and they are more or less supported by Article 4. Article 3, that which supports people, or which calls people to defend their constitution, but also in accordance with the clauses of the same constitution. Okay, we shall proceed to, we have 12 also minutes. We shall proceed to promotion of the public awareness of the constitution, and there we have issues with you people, especially you as the former minister, and also the president's advisor. Why has this constitution been translated into various languages? I think this is where we are. Promotion of public awareness of the constitution. Right. Shall we proceed?
You are right. That is Article what?
It's Article 4. Article 4. That's page 14.
It's not Article, Clause.
Sorry, Clause 4. Under the defense. Yeah, Clause 4.
Yeah, Clause 4.
The state shall promote public awareness.
Can you read it?
Let's exchange. Let me give you this. It's here. It is here.
Oh, sorry. Where? Oh.
You can begin from. Yeah.
Yes, clause 4 provides provision of public awareness of the Constitution. That's heading. The state, that is the state of Uganda, shall provide,
Shall promote
public
awareness
of the Constitution by A,
translating
it into Uganda languages and disseminating it widely as possible. And the B,
providing for the teaching
of the Constitution
in all educational
institutions
and armed
forces, training or something, regularly
transmitting
and publishing
programs
through
the media. How far did you go when you were still a minister?
I went as far as the authorities in power could understand me. After the promulgation of the of this Constitution,
yes,
arrangements were made for me personally, always to address Parliament, especially a new Parliament, on the constitutional obligations and the contents. And the people like Amama Mbabazi, people like the former Inspector General of Police, Kaihula, they will confirm that me as an expert on the Constitution, I was always allowed and invited to address members of the forces, members of the police, and every new parliament. Every new parliament, I was always the resource person, the first one. Even when we had a very important visitor from Kenya, the speaker, I think he's former speaker of Kenya Parliament. One time he was a guest of us. My role as a teacher and educator on the contents of the Constitution was not lessened, and I was invited in the presence of President Museveni and others to address Parliament first on their obligations to Parliament and to expound and explain Article 79 of the Constitution as to the role of members of Parliament. I was always complaining, even in my books, that we have not complied with this article.
At all.
At all. Certain efforts have been made, and there are versions of the Constitution, but they are unofficial. In Buganda, in Runyankole, which are translations of either voluntary groups or lawyers. I saw the one in Ruchiga Runyankole. It is a very bad version of the Constitution. Whoever translated that version was not a trained lawyer, and if he was, he didn't understand the Ruchiga Runyankole. By the way, the official language of Ankole and the Kigezi is known as Runyankole Ruchiga. But Museveni is one of those who always defies the truth. He always says, we in Runyankole. Even if the saying has its roots in Ruchiga. He adopts it as Wibanyankoli. But I think that is his way of doing as an old man. So you are absolutely right that the NRM government, especially the NRM government, which inspired the making of this constitution, has failed in its duty to
execute these
to circulate and translate the constitution in our different languages. And that is why I am saying that from today, and you are one of those, you are a younger person, and your colleagues, please insist that apart from the constitution, commentaries, writings on the constitution, or people like Odochi, like Kanyeihamba, like the judgment I have said, the 2006, what they call judgments, but findings, should be published and studied in all law schools. And even that one, President Museveni won the petition. But when you read it, he should have lost. Because we are unanimous.
On specific questions that you had
Oh
asked.
no, the question we asked was the constitution
Abused.
violated?
Answer was
7 of us. Yes, it was violated. Was the electoral laws,
abused.
Presidential Election Act, the Electoral Commission Act, were they violated? Unanimous 7-0. Yes. Was the election free or fair? In the sense I have described it. We were unanimous.
No.
No. Was there intimidation
Answer was yes.
by the security forces? Yes. Did the counting of votes, were they okay? No. There was rigging and vote stuffing. So unanimous answers, the 7 of us. Odochi, Odere, Sekoko, Karokora, Mulenga, Kanyeihamba, and the Bata Kature. When we initially asked how we deal with the petition, 5 of us, including the original who never changed, Odere, Sekoko, Kanyeihamba, we were joined by Mulenga and Kalokora, that we would allow the petition, not because Chiza had approved that he had won it, but because everybody had approved the election had not been free or fair or conducted in accordance with the Constitution and the relevant Parliament's Act. Then I described, as we shall find here in this book, how 2 abandoned our side, went to the other side. They joined Justice Katurebe and the Chief Justice Odochi. So they became 4. We stayed 3. On the day, but Mulenga was still with us, on the very day, few minutes before we went to court to deliver our findings and the orders, Mulenga also abandoned us. So they became 4
To 3.
and we remained 3 who wanted to nullify the election. who were.
And the world will forever remember you for being that brave. And yeah, strong ones. Prof, we have 3 minutes to leave here. Your closing remarks today. And then when we come back, the next time we'll be here, we shall ask why, first of all, were you not successful in executing all of these clauses in regards to translating, teachings, and the rest. But for now, your closing remarks.
But do you think that is my question?
How far did you push?
Because when the Constitution came in,
1995,
I was no longer Minister of Justice or Attorney General. I believe even Katurebe was no longer Minister of Justice or Attorney General. Mulenga had been also no longer. So we are not the right people to answer why government failed. So it is our successor, the successor of Katurebe. Even the current one, is this Mr. Byaruhanga or whoever? These you should be the ones you ask.
I have this question for you. Do judges lobby?
No, we lobby, yes.
Why didn't you lobby?
We lobbied. That's one I can tell you. We don't have to wait next week.
Yeah.
We lobbied seriously. In every speech I gave,
you would lobby.
I said, you mean you don't have a copy in your language? Even you ask about Chiga, you don't have it. I had a conference in Barara because I remained a human rights activist, where Museveni said, and good words, we shall come to that one later. And I asked, you mean Timujino Mulunyankole? They all said no. So I said, I will ask the Minister of Justice why he has not get funds to translate the Bible in Ruchiga Runyankole.
The closing remarks should be in a form of an answer to this question, Prof. Do you, in your view, when the president held this constitution at Korolo, in fact, there are 2 strong books, for lack of another word, a Bible and a constitution. Do you think, to him, in your view, he respects that? Do you think he finds the sense in holding those 2? No, he doesn't.
Museveni is in no respect of persons. I think we would do better if we ended with the things I put in that little booklet. They are very important. I want to start with them, but let me end with them. You see, on page, can you tell me here, I have my torches.
Words of wisdom, 59.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we should end with this.
Okay.
In this little booklet, on page
59,
not to be confused with the article,
no.
section 59, I have inserted for you words of wisdom. I have many words of wisdom which I have crammed from elsewhere, but these came to mind as being relevant to this little booklet. So a little booklet which you can read one afternoon or one morning. Then I am addressing you, the reader who will get this book. Dear reader, internalize and utilize the golden utterances of the kind and wise below. In other words, kind people and wise people said these things. 1, the more I know, the less I understand. Try yourself before you discuss with anybody else. What does it mean to you? You forgive me, I read the rest after 1 minute break. Quick. Stop, please.
Oh,
I should have
sure.
done this before, I didn't know. Nature calls very quickly.
We
How about, where are you?
We'll come in and
How
close
about-
in the next 5 minutes. Yeah,
Quickly,
in the 5
quickly.
minutes.
How
we'll
about-
close.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
In our next episode, we mean that reading these to close with the Prof with these words of wisdom, and he had finished the first sentence.
Yes.
The more I know, the less I understand.
My touch. In the future, we can also go, that is clear. I wouldn't need a touch. Particularly, I want people to consider, what does it mean? The more I know, the less I understand. It has got a meaning. Then the next one is, the pen is mightier than the gun. Next, all things must pass, which means even the NRM will pass. A stick in time saves 9. As you sow, SOW, so shall you reap. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. If you tell the truth, no explanation is necessary. If you tell,
If you believe,
if you believe, no explanation is necessary. Or,
if you do not believe,
but if you do not believe, no explanation
or justification.
or justification is possible. Then truth hurts. Think about it. Truth hurts. HURTS. Then some of these are intended for our current politicians. The good that men do is often interned with their bones. The evil they do is remembered forever.
You have heard from the retired Justice of Supreme Court, Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba. This has been our second episode. He pledges until we finish this his latest write-up, because he finds it very key and necessary to communicate and inform lawyers, citizens, but most importantly, judges and those that hold power. May God bless one. See you next time. It will always be Alternative Digital on our pages, The Alternative Uganda, Facebook, YouTube. This show will be there in a few minutes from now. The Alternative Uganda as our YouTube channel, and also on Twitter, Alternative Uga. May you be blessed, and please ensure that whatever you're doing, it shouldn't hurt others, but rather for the development of our PAL, for God and my country. Thanks, Prof, for being with us.
Thank you, Norman, and your team.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.